Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We're going to have a great show for you today. Anyway, how are my people doing? I trust everybody's okay. Welcome aboard. Joe from Los Angeles, California. El Denuve, welcome aboard. Meow, Patrick. How you doing, my brother? AVQ from Brooklyn, New York. You are 51. Today's my birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Oh, I'm losing my voice. Happy birthday to you. All right. Happy birthday, my dear brother, El Senor AVQ. I'm a little bit hoarse, so forgive that. All right, let's see. We have Joe who says, hello, PDR Posse. Angie Decadence. How you doing, Angie? Mark Elaine, Derek, Kathy Field 984. Richard Brown says, happy birthday. Lynette, Jackie Burt, Michael Villa, Sada C. Jones. Let's see. Lisa Blair, Atlanta, Georgia. How you doing? Paul Fleminger. That is out of Powder Springs, Georgia. Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Thank you all for being here. I'm having a little bit of technical problems that I don't get. I can't hear everything very well, but I think you guys are set up that you can hear me better than I can hear you. Anyway, how are people doing today? Lee Grant from Montgomery County is here. Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia is in the house. She is in the house. Okay, let me see what else I've got to do here. Let me know if you guys hear any issues with the connections here, but I think for the most part, all is doing fine. I think I need to connect this one here. However, with the headset, I'm pretty sure that headset got to be connected there. Okay, and I think I got that one done. Track 4, or is that track 3? Okay, speaker. Okay, let's see. I think I got all of that correct. Maybe not. Maybe so. We will see. Track 3, is that correct? We'll see what has to be done here. But for the time being, let's go ahead and see what gives. All right. Okay. Got to remember not to save off. What's happening today? What are we going to talk about today? There are 3 things, actually 4 things that we have scheduled for today, whether we get to them or not. Not sure yet, but the first one, Marjorie Taylor Greene, actually comes out and says, MAGA was a lie. And then Hidades points out, hey, rich people, this is what they really think of you. And the Epstein files kind of told a lot of stories about that. I promised you yesterday that I was going to give you the great speech that Amy Klobuchar gave at the gala. So I tell you what, I'm going to start there so that I can go ahead while that plays, try to figure out all the technical problems that I'm having here. So I am going to go ahead and play that video, and then we'll get directly into the program in a little bit. AVQ has some stuff. I'm not sure if I can get it working yet. Let me clean things up as we play this video. And well, I think the video is loaded. Okay, yep, I've got the video loaded, and I am going to do so right now.
Democrats, I will tell you that Lucy Fletcher and I have been texting texting in real time. But I want you to know that when Texas waged that fight on democracy, we stood with you just like you are standing with Minnesota today. When your governor went after Texas public schools, you showed up. You took back the Cy-Fair school board, and that was they're putting in the work. They're fired up. They're standing up for our rights, and I am telling you, we are ready for you to win that U.S. Senate seat. So, I know that Minnesota and Texas sometimes feel far from each other. But I truly believe that it's one of the reasons that I wanted to be with you. I was ready to go in the fall, and I know that for many reasons that event had to be taken down, although I will say it allowed me to go to Farm Aid and get to spend a half hour with Willie Nelson, so but we do have things in common, and I'm not just talking about I-35. You're the Lone Star State, we're the North Star State. Texas had LBJ, and Minnesota had his running mate, Hubert Humphrey, two champions for voting rights and for civil rights. Together, they led the nation through some of our toughest times. In Harris County, we have the Houston Museum District, which is incredible, one of the most concentrated cultural areas in the world, 21 museums, 7 million visitors a year. And in Minnesota, you may not know this, but we have the only museum devoted entirely to spam. Or we call it the Guggenheim. So something else we have in common is that we don't just take things, we fight back. And we are all sick and tired of what is going on in Washington, D.C. right now, the chaos, the corruption, the cost. And we are standing up. So I want to talk a little bit about my home state. As your chair mentioned, Minnesota has been at the center of America's heartbreak, and it has been a year, right? We go back beyond the year to George Floyd, but then you go this year with our beloved leader of the House of Representatives, who was Texas strong in her incredible way, Melissa Horton, and her husband, their assassination, and we have these little kids got down through stained glass windows in a church, and then we are where we are now. And we have been, we will tell you, the center of America's heartbreak. But I hope what you're seeing right now is that we're also the center of America's courage and hope. By the way, we might have a lot of great Texas musicians, but Bruce yesterday performed in Fritz's place, First Avenue, came out to Minnesota to sing that song. What happened here? Renee Good, devoted mom of 3, gunned down. Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse who served our veterans at the Minneapolis VA hospital. We've had so many veterans speak out about what he had done for them and also their families, that he was there with their loved ones in their closing hours. Both were killed by federal agents in the same month. Renee's last words were, "I'm not mad at you." And as he was helping a woman who had been shoved to the ground, Alice's last words were, "Are you okay?" And this administration, our own federal government, after this happens, literally within an hour after each of them were gunned down, they labeled them as domestic terrorists. When I talked to Alex's parents, they said they wanted the truth known about their son, but they also said, and what a kind-hearted man he was, but they also said that they wanted us to call out the administration for what they had done and the lies that they had told. So part of my job tonight and our job across the country is to get the truth out. As your chair mentioned, there are 3,000 ICE agents on our streets. You know, maybe in Houston or in Dallas, it wouldn't seem as big a number, but it outnumbers our 10 largest metro police forces combined. Minneapolis-St. Paul alone only has 1,100 sworn officers. They came in and said they were going after the worst of the worst. You know, we supported help with violent offenders, or we supported a fraud investigation at the beginning when we thought they were just sending a few people to help with that. That's not what happened. Instead, they ripped a young elder out of his home in frigid weather. dragged him out in his underwear, and it turns out they brought him around for an hour, and they found out that they had not only the wrong guy, but the guy they were trying to find had been in jail for years and years and is still today. They took a 2-year-old toddler and a little girl who was just adorable and put her on a plane to your state. A judge's case was pending, and the judge ruled that the child had to come back to her mom. My office worked on it through the night, and that child is now reunited with her mom. You know, a 5-year-old boy, you've seen the pictures, in a little bunny hat with floppy ears, Spider-Man backpack, and agent's hand grabbing at his backpack. Liam is at the detention center over in Dilley. And my friend and your friend, Joaquin Castro, went to check on him the other day. Liam's father told Congressman Castro that Liam hasn't been himself. He's been sleeping a lot because he has been depressed and sad. Think about that. A little boy taken from his friends, his mom and his classmates. Liam's principal is still keeping his belongings safe in his school cubby. And today, just a few hours ago, we got some good news. In Texas, lawyers matter, judges matter, and never forget this. A judge in Texas, standing up for the rule of law, ordered the release of Liam and his father. Less safe in our state. They have crossed the line of legality, morality, and decency. Finally, a few Republicans, including some of my Senate colleagues, are seeing that this is an assault on the Constitution. It has taken them way too long. And as I've said to them, you can't call yourself a defender of liberty if you don't defend liberty when it comes. Our Republican colleagues need to stand up to this president, and they rarely do it. And that's why we do not need more rubber-stamped officials in the U.S. Senate, in governor's offices, or in the state houses across the country. When you look at what Donald Trump has promised, he has broken those promises. Standing up for freedom, no. Completely wrong. Standing up to bring costs down, no. Costs are up, chaos is up, and corruption is up. He promised to bring down costs on day one. He broke that promise on day one. You know how hard it is when it comes to child care, when it comes to housing, when it comes to paying for health care. Americans saw their premiums double, and you saw how we went into that shutdown this fall. Democrats, including your incredible Congress leaders that are in the hall today, they stood up and said, we're not going to let these health care premiums down. We know Texas, one of the biggest states, that would have helped to keep those tax credits in place. But they wouldn't do it. Just recently, 17 Republicans finally joined every Democrat in voting to do that, but now it's stalled out over in the Senate, where they're much more worried about giving tax cut to billionaires. And that is all on top of this big ugly bill, which are kicking millions of people off their health care while pushing our rural hospitals and nursing homes to the brink. Donald Trump and Republicans promised they would stand up for our farmers. You know in Texas that they've broken that promise. The tariffs are crushing them. And he is more interested in giving $20 billion bailouts to Argentina than helping our farmers out and stealing their markets out from under them. So he broke his promises, and then he broke out the bulldozer. He bulldozed the East Wing, just like he bulldozed the economy. And I don't think people thought he would bulldoze the Constitution, but that's what he's trying to do. And in a state like yours that values freedom, I think it's really important to not just talk about the costs and the tariffs and the chaos and the corruption, but to make this point. If your Republican leaders in Texas value the First Amendment, then why are they messing around with the right to assemble every day? If they value the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, then why did Trump officials go after Alex Reddy for being a lawful gun permit holder when it was those agents that took the gun out from under him and then shot him in the back? If they value the Fourth Amendment, this idea that you can't just have your door rammed through and hinges flying through the air and the protection against search and seizure, then they should be speaking out. And if they value the Fifth Amendment right to due process, then they should be speaking out. Trump doesn't trump the Constitution. So this week, we see the sequence. People across our state and our country, regardless really of what side of the aisle they're on, regular citizens have spoken out. They've had enough. Ordinary people have been doing extraordinary things. They have stood up, marched, brought food to their neighbors, and they have not blinked. A church packed with diapers and meat for families terrified to come out of their homes. A veteran that Alex Reddy took care of in the ICU, who put herself out on national TV to tell the country that he treated every vet like they were his only patient. Police chiefs in my state and nationally, mayors, business, community leaders have all joined together and sent the White House a clear message to get ICE out of our state. And last week, and I know this is hard to watch through Texas, maybe you're just a little warmer, 50,000 Minnesotans, I was there, marched peacefully in minus 10 below zero temperature. They marched with signs that, well, I couldn't put most of them in a photo, but I did find one that said, "Love melts ice." 50,000 people stood strong in the middle of the tundra and said, immigrants don't diminish America. They are America. And I'm proud of this connection that we've always had with your state. We have refused to give in to the hate. And what I've told the people of my state is that don't look down. Don't look away. Don't avert your eyes. We must continue to look at each other. We must continue to look, in our case, at the North Star, in your case, the Lone Star. That's what I mean when I say there is hope. From coast to coast, and right there with all of you, I wish I could have been there in person, and I will one day, in Harris County, Americans are watching. They see our resilience. They see that grit. They see that we are much bigger than one man in the White House, no matter how tough he thinks he is, no matter how much shock and awe he loves to put out there every day just to distract the news. They see that people in our state, that nurses and doctors and people who are standing up have more backbone than Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance and Kristi Noem could ever even think exist. They have more courage and self-belief finding them shipped out of his job and shipped out of Minnesota. All of us in Minnesota and Texas must continue to sustain the strength. You've done it before with your legislative battles. And when we get tired, I can always think of Texas. I think about our friend, Sheila Jackson Lee. I think about Ann Richards, was one of the best coats of all time. I've been tested by fire, and the fire lost. And by the way, she's a true role model to me as I embark on this governor campaign in the state of Minnesota with 8 years of I also think about Barbara Jordan and what she laid out so beautifully. What the people want is simple. I once quoted this at a national convention and honored her. What the people want is simple. They want an America as good as its promise. America's promise. The promise of a government motivated to protect people's freedom and make their lives better. Reaching that promise is how we make progress. It's how we make progress on health care. It's how we get more Americans to be able to buy their first home. It's how we make life affordable and and dreams achievable for millions of America. The fight for that promise, yes, it's taking place in Minnesota in a larger-than-life way, but every single day in that heart of Texas, it's taking place. This is our moment. This is a moment as big as the state of Texas. So let's win this Harris County. I want to come back in person and celebrate everything you've done. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, folks. So, look, the reason I like that speech is that it was forward looking. I hear what you say, El Señor Radnin, and in fact, I'm going to play it. But before I play that, I want to tell you guys, when you hear Donald Trump talk about federalizing Republicans taking over elections and all of that, please, instead of having fear, about, oh, are they going to have the election, make it be known that under no circumstances will we allow under no circumstances will we allow, one, an election to not occur, and two, for them to interfere in the local processing of elections. Forget about thinking that this guy has powers he doesn't have, because anytime those powers are exceeded or goes beyond the constitutional, all hell will break loose. Because again, if he's doing extra out of the law, everybody else will be operating out of the law. So we either have the law or we don't have the law. Anyway, let me play this piece that Brother Radnin has here. I didn't listen to it yet, Radnin, so let's see what it's all about.
Fascist president is, of course, threatening to seize a bunch of voting infrastructure in states so that he can steal the elections in all of those blue states, completely against the Constitution. But of course, all the states' rights Republicans are nowhere to be found because they actually don't give a fuck about the Constitution, never did. They're fascists who just want power at any cost. But since Trump tried to do this before, back in 2020, and this actually isn't really new, the fact that he's a fascist and wants to be a dictator, you would think that the Democrats in the House and the Senate would have more of a plan to fight back against this. But I regret to inform you that they actually don't. Here's Chuck Schumer, the pathetic, feckless leader of the Senate, who for some fucking reason is still leading the Senate Democrats, talking about how he wants to nationalize voting and says our democracy is at risk and it's all the president's fault. I don't know about you, and I know that there's still a lot of blue MAGA that are in denial and make excuses for the Democrats, but I'm really tired of their feigned helplessness. It's not like you're the leader of the Senate. They love to feign helplessness. Oh, it's all his fault. What could we possibly do? They all do it. I saw interviews this week of Tim Walz and Jacob Fry in Minneapolis not using the power that they have and then getting on TV and being like, man, I'm really proud of Minnesota. People really do need to rise up. Somebody should do something. You're the somebody. He points out that Republicans are trying to push a Jim Crow style fucking law under the guise of voter protection, of course, through, and he's claiming that if they don't stand down, that the government is going to shut down. But I have a question for people. How do you think this is going to go? Do you actually think that the Democrats are going to fight back against this and are actually going to hold the line against the fascist Republicans trying to push this through? Because if history is a guide, and by history I mean a month ago, they're not going to do anything to stop what's happening. The leadership in the National Democratic Party are fascist collaborators. So our fascist president is, of course, threatening to seize a bunch of
Okay, let me qualify what this young lady is saying. First of all, I love my Gen Zs. Okay, let me just tell you that. And the reason I love my Gen Zs is that they are fearless. They are fearless, unlike boomers and Gen Xers, I believe. These guys are fearless. You look at folks like Lee out of Pennsylvania. You look at Maxwell out of Florida. You look at even AOC. She's a millennial. You look at Ayanna Presley. You look at Ilhan Omar when they when that guy threw that liquid on her, she was getting ready to take care of business, not waiting for anybody. Uh, these are yes, I understand why you're mad, AVQ, and I am not mad. I'm going to tell you why I'm not mad. Here is why you get mad. You get mad, and this is to my Gen Zers. You get mad when you are doing something and they're stopping you from doing it. Okay, that's when you get mad. But we are in the primary season. All you Gen Zs and young Gen Yers, you all make up the majority group in this country. Okay? What is it there for you to do now? I told all of the entire Democratic Party and independent people who have a mind of their own. The action are twofold. First, if you want the most progressive folks and the fighters, you elect them in the primaries. You don't sit out the primaries. You elect them in the primaries. And then you fight as hell to get them elected in the finals. Okay, that's how it's done. The problem is we sit down and wait for empty suits to do things for us. I keep telling folks this. Don't sit, and I counsel our great groups around town and say the same thing. You don't sit back and wait for the empty. Look, those empty suits are there to be filled. There are some of them that are already filled. Maxwell is filled. Lee is filled out of Pennsylvania. These people are ready to go. They will pass Medicare for all tomorrow. But it's the other people, Jeffries, that we're protecting, Schumer that we're protecting. No protection. You come, we just had an election in District 18 between Amanda Edwards and Christian Menifee. I asked Menifee off the record about what you supported. We never got answers because I never actually got an interview with him. But the interview with Edwards, do you support Medicare for all? I got an answer that was sort of a roundabout answer. I brought Greene, the older person, Al Greene. Al, same district he's going to be running on in March. Do you support Medicare for all? Are you going to support these progressive policies? Yes, you got my vote. Of course, I can't vote for him. I'm not in District 18. But I will be telling folks, look, we in the primary, you want to get elected, let's make sure that you have the right answers. And after you have the right answers, we make you execute your right answers after you're elected. Otherwise, we start the campaign against you right away. It's that simple. So yes, be mad if you can't, if you're past the time. But now is the time not to be mad at these weenies. We are not supposed to be mad at these non-performers. We have to perform. We have to perform. We go out for the No Kings March. Let's see those same people at the polls. When Donald Trump tried to put his ICE thugs in front of areas, we go in massive groups to the polls. Let them try to stop us. Let them try to stop us. You run over them. They are not going to stop our constitutional rights. So, my dear brother Rodnin, I don't have time to be mad. I don't have time to be upset. I don't have time to say, when are you going to do something? Because I am going to do something. You are going to do something. That's what we got to get into our head. You know, the way I grew up in Panama, right? It was never sit down and wait for something to happen. This is something that I've been trying to inculcate into my my daughter's mind. Well, I can't much control my wife's mind. My wife is already old from the time, that a lot of stuff was already formative in the mind. But the idea is you don't sit back and wait for something to happen. You don't wait for somebody to save you. You save your damn self. I'm going to tell you a little story about broadcasting, okay? Um, I started blogging without on my own. When I say on my own, I mean I wasn't trying to link up with anybody or blog. I started writing, started doing my stuff on my own. All right. Then later on, somebody kind of liked what I was doing, and they kind of turned me on to public media, meaning places like KPFT and other places. When it turned out that I had issues, and by the way, at the same time that I am building the public persona with these groups, I always made sure to keep my own, your own, and all of you should. What I mean by that, uh, when you are in corporations, they change. They change. No crash AVQ. They change managers. They change directions and all of that. And if you don't like it, go to hell. Right? That's what they pretty much tell you. Well, what I tell folks is you build your own platform so that if some other group that you're working with tells you to go to hell, you say, no, I'll do whatever the hell I please. And that's what I made sure to always do. And we need to do the same when it comes to our politicians. That is, you don't have a dependency on any politician because the politician has a dependency on all of us because they need to placate us to win. But what we have done is allowed them to run to the money of placation through a corporation and forget that the ones that have the vote are us, the ones that is us, or whatever. We are the ones, and we are the ones that they really should be placating. We are the ones that they should be honoring. But we have ceded that. So my answer to you again, AVQ and everyone that, including this young lady who made this TikTok, don't just sit down and be mad. In fact, don't be mad at all. Do. Don't be mad. Do. Do and do. All right. You know, we have learned over the years because of our indoctrination to somehow believe that there's something special about the wealthy. And I've been telling you guys all along, there's nothing special about wealthy. I'm not talking about the wealthy that really build on their own and continue to do the right thing. I'm talking about the wealthy folks who use capitalism to really make themselves they claim, but they don't because they're making their wealth on your back. They're making their wealth so much on your back that they have time to do a whole lot of other things, right? You remember when we look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk is in charge of SpaceX, and he's in charge of the electric car, and he's in charge. That's impossible. And he can run around with a chainsaw, and he can run around and do TikTok, and he can do all these things, and then claim he's almost a trillionaire, right? No. What our wealthy people do is you do the work and I get the profit. That's capitalism. You do the work, I get the profit. That's why somebody who supposedly runs SpaceX, somebody who supposedly runs Tesla, somebody who supposedly runs TikTok is it's impossible, right? Other people do your work and you play. And how do these people play? Eventually, many of them just turned into deviants. And that's what we call the Epstein class. Because now we're starting to find out that a lot of the free time that they have, because we are the ones who do the work, they spend it doing all the wrong things to satisfy their own internal evils, if you will. I want you to listen to how Anand Hidayat points it out. And every time you look at a rich person, look, not all rich people are bad. I mean, the rich people who built stuff for real, good people. But the ones who are using capitalism, the ones who are built on your back, I want you to check this out.
Your latest piece for The Ink, it visits your New York Times op-ed from, I think, last November that takes a closer look at what you believe the files reveal. The piece is titled, "It's So Much Bigger Than Epstein," and in it you write in part, as journalists comb through the Epstein emails, surfacing the name of one fawning luminary after another, there is a collective whisper of how could they? How could such eminent people belonging to such prestigious institutions succumb to this? A close read of the thousands of messages make it less surprising. When Jeffrey Epstein, a financier turned convicted sex offender, needed friends to rehabilitate him, he knew where to turn. A power elite practiced at disregarding pain. What do you mean by that, and who are you talking about?
I mean, look at those names you're going through. It's such a striking thing. It is chairmen of law firms. It is Steve Bannon on the right. Of course, it was Larry Summers, former Treasury Secretary and Harvard president, who's on the left. It is Woody Allen. It is football owners. It is billionaires of all stripes. Scientists, academics, philanthropists, Bill Gates. And as I was reading the emails, I was thinking, how did all these different people, different ideologies, different professions, different backgrounds, different ages
gravitate to him,
to this one guy? And as I read the emails and the blasé way in which they were palling around with him, whether some in hot tubs, as we saw there, some dinner meetups, some, as we know, were involved in actual sex crimes, some may have just been social friends in New York. What I realized this group of people had in common is that what Jeffrey Epstein did, presumably, was not a deal breaker for them. This was years and years and years after his conviction.
Exactly.
And
so they did know.
And he was very clearly trying to rehabilitate himself in New York society and using them. But the point is, it's not like, how could such eminent people do it? These are people who, at every turn in the last generation, have been very capable of looking away from the pain of Americans. They've been very capable of it in the Trump era when their business interests needed to be focused on instead of what Trump is doing to democracy. These are people who in many ways have been part of turbocharging inequality in this country, been able to look away at that pain. They've had a lot of practice looking away at the pain of all the people we sent to Iraq on a lie. So this is a group of people, a class of people, what Congressman Ro Khanna calls the Epstein class, that is very, very good at plugging their ears and not hearing people cry. So when these incredibly brave women have been speaking out, they have shamed, I think, not just one man. This is the important point. They have shamed a class of people who were not only able to overlook those survivors and their stories, but as many of those women have themselves said, were able to overlook a power structure that made that possible.
Right. But if you look at the emails between these powerful men, whether it's Richard Branson or this longevity doctor who works at CBS, they're almost mocking his lifestyle, showing that not only do they know about it, they can joke about it flagrantly.
And some of them were giving him PR advice on how to rehabilitate his image. One of the most striking emails there is actually from sets of emails. This is from Catherine Rumler, who worked as Barack Obama's White House counsel, Democratic administration, White House counsel, lawyer representing the American presidency. Now, in the way that is normal in American life, she's the chief lawyer for Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're trading advice. She's getting his advice on, should I become attorney general? She's taking the advice of a convicted sex offender on should I accept Barack Obama's potential offer to be attorney general. And he's telling her, she's giving him advice about his situations in life. And in this very striking scene, she describes driving up to New York, and she says, I will stop at a rest stop at some point in New Jersey on my way up to New York, and I will see, no doubt, all these people who are 100 pounds overweight, and I will be shocked by it, and I will be moved to never eat another morsel of food in my life so that I never become like them. I just want to say to people watching this is what people in that class think about you. You don't normally get a glimpse. You see them on TV. You see them on their curated social media that someone else is doing for them. These emails are a glimpse of how people in this Epstein class feel about you. They feel you're a slob at a rest stop that they unfortunately have to stop at to get gas. And very strikingly, then a few years later, Goldman Sachs described the anti-obesity drugs as a $100 billion opportunity, which captures something fundamental. These folks always have a way of profiting. They profit when it's going this way. They profit when it's going that way. When the regimes, Ken Starr persecuted Bill Clinton for sexual misconduct. Ken Starr reinvented himself as a defender of Jeffrey Epstein. Whatever happens to you and your family, these people will find a way in this Epstein class to make sure they're on top.
And that is what very few people can absorb into their psyche. That is, the worship that we have of the wealthy class that were never worth SHIT. They were never worth it. From the inception of this country, this country, the wealthy were always to have been considered the scourge of the earth. When they needed labor, they got slaves. When they needed to go across the country, they brought in the Chinese to build something they didn't want to build themselves, because they didn't want the effort. That was always built on the backs of somebody else. And then they take the credit. Elon Musk couldn't tell you what E is equal to MC squared. He couldn't talk about that. He couldn't talk about geosynchronous orbits in any detail or why it works. But he is profiting billions from SpaceX. He couldn't tell you anything about how an electric brake regenerates the energy in a battery, converting the mechanical energy from the electric car and throwing it right back into the battery. He couldn't tell you that. Okay? He talks, and I hear him speak about these things sometimes when he's trying to seem smart, and I'm like, no, sir, that is not how it works, Mr. Trillionaire or billionaire. That's not how it works. I am sorry, that's not how it works. And we have to sit back and listen to how great the Musks of the world are. Bill Gates, I know you like him. I like him kinda because of how he's going to use some of his money. But when it was time to get an operating system for IBM, he had the inside information, so he runs, and without telling the other company who has built an operating system, he gives them $50,000. How? Because he was blessed. He was blessed with a silver spoon in his mouth, so he could go give somebody in the early 80s, late 70s. He could give them $50,000, then go to IBM and say, hey, I got a product, and never sell it to IBM and make billions. It's again, and that we worship these people because we think somehow having dollars mean you have intellect. Having dollars mean you have morals. Folks, we got to stop doing this to ourselves. Like this young lady talks about, we have to go out there and do it ourselves. We have to go over and take this country. We have to go over and take Medicare for all. We have to go over and take basic income. We have to go over and take child care. We have to go over and demand vacation time at least a month a year for everybody. We have to do it. And we can't take excuses. We have got to do it. And we cannot accept excuses. You know, anytime we go ahead and say, oh, well, the politicians what? The politicians are us. Look, I came from another country. I read the Constitution. I realize what we are all about. And by the way, I feel myself an American like any other American because, again, this world is a global world. And all these things are interchanged. Right? So, folks, we got to get better. All right, I have more, but let me just bring the Marjorie Taylor business in here because I love to. I want this out of Marjorie Taylor's mouth for a lot of my MAGA folks. She has seen the light, albeit with some help. But for those of us here in this chat, we have a couple who continue to be slaves to the mental decline of a, well, you know what? I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
In poll after poll, election after election, voters are telling the Trump administration what they care about. And yet, the president continues to prioritize what he cares about, like building a 250-foot arch in D.C. that could dwarf the Lincoln Memorial. He said he wants it to be the largest in the world, or renovating the Kennedy Center today, a project that he suggested that would shutter the performing arts space for up to 2 years. So when asked about the state of MAGA 1 year in, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, she didn't hold back.
MAGA is, I think people are realizing it was all a lie. It was a big lie for the people. What MAGA is really serving is, in this administration, who they're serving is their big donors.
Look, two things can be true at the same time. Even a broke clock is right twice a day. So yes, MAGA was all a lie. It was always a lie. It was always never about the people. I mean, Donald Trump is a master marketer, and he marketed himself to a large swath of the American electorate as a guy for the working man and woman, when he's really just, you know, somebody that was using them as a footstool to, you know, fill up his bank account. That being said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I just want to continue to note that she only is here telling us the truth, apparently what she knew all along. I used to think she was a true believer. Now I kind of feel like she was perhaps playing a part because it fit her, because it benefited her. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is only at this point because they turned on her. She wouldn't be telling us the truth if Donald Trump didn't turn his ire onto her and her family. And there is something to be said about that. She has yet to atone for what she has done. I haven't heard her apologize to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, election workers in Georgia who were targeted by the lies, these election lies of the president, amplified by herself and folks like Rudy Giuliani. Haven't heard her apologize to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Haven't heard her apologize to the millions of people across this country who have been hurt, devastated, whose lives were turned upside down by the BS she is now so freely telling us that, oh, you know, it was always a ruse. Well, baby girl, where's your part to play in here? Or when are you going to say sorry? What are you going to do about it?
When you look at this decade, Republicans have tried to exist in Donald Trump's world until the bitter end. But then every single one of them realizes that unless you're loyal to the end, you don't have any relevance to him. And that's why I go back. Jeff Flake, the Arizona senator, back in June of 2017.
All day long.
He wrote a book back in June of 2017, it's worth picking up, about that bargain, the grand bargain with Donald Trump, and that it's not worth it. So many did not listen to him, and yet that is where Marjorie Taylor Greene almost picking up. It took, though, 10 years later.
But the thing that seems even truer to me is that MAGA was always about Donald Trump. And I think that that is sort of the next piece, which is people really did want to see a system be shaken up. They wanted to see an economy that delivered for them. He got up there and he told them, I am your retribution. When in reality, it was the complete flip, Simone, right? They, by electing him, allowed him to come back to power and seek his retribution. And everything that we have been talking about this hour goes back to that. It is not necessarily even a worldview about how you make America great. It is about a personal fixation with retribution.
Literally, it is all about Trump. And honestly, I think we will study this for years and years to come. The con job he pulled on a large swath of the American electorate. The same way they got them to believe that, he's this MAGA king. They believe the big lie. They're believing these things that he's saying about Democrats and our democracy right now. It is, in fact, dangerous.
Just 27% say today that they support all or most of Trump's policies.
Only 27% support for his policies right now. Anyway, look, it is interesting because as more and more people, the MAGA people that still have a portion of the brain that can still work, that is, right? Because there are, in fact, some sycophants that have finally said that the brain is actually defective in this regards. And I'm not trying to be rude, but there are some with defective brains that it just won't compute. It just won't compute. But others are seeing the light. And the number that we are going to realize that whose brains are actually damaged, cult-like damage, as you see that number dwindle, it's at 27% now. The people who are able to who are not able to see the light. We're going to reach that point in science where we normally call it like a steady state error. In feedback control, we call it a steady state error. We're going to find what that steady state error of the American population is. But my God, even at 27%, that steady state error is too large. Folks, we have to get with the program. We have to get it right. Marjorie Taylor, I think Simone had it right. She knew the truth all along. She just made a profit knowing that MAGA could be profitable for her. I agree 100%. I think Patrick does. Now, what I want to show you is, with all that we talk about here, an enslaved mind, Mike Cisak is concerned about $1 billion fraud in Chicago or elsewhere. Fraud is fraud is fraud is fraud, right? It's a bad thing. We shouldn't have fraud. But there is fraud that you have continuously in our society. The fraud of building the concentration camps that's being built around the country. Those are billions of dollars that are collected from we the taxpayer to imprison people in cages. We are using human bodies to make a profit. We are building structures, human bodies to make a profit. I mean, there was a striking thing that was said by, I think it was the Kansas mayor on Rachel Maddow last night, when he pointed out that, and guess what? There are rails next to these concentration camps. Rails. What's the connotation of that? Remember the Holocaust, the rails into the concentration camps. And eventually, when we purportedly get rid of all these undocumented workers, don't you think the prison industrial complex that's profiting from all of these buildings will need to fill them up somehow? Don't you think? Don't you think? You talk about $1 billion in monetary fraud. Do you know the fraud that occurs in building airplanes, building ships, and what that 1 point something trillion dollar defense budget? How much of that is actual fraud? But those fraudsters wear ties. Those fraudsters wear suits. Those fraudsters have everybody else doing the work as they profit from their own fraud. But do you ever speak up against those? When the Somalis, when 2 or 3 Somalis get a few pennies, it burns you. But when the people that are really putting a dent in our own, that is when you really, really speak up. Anyway, we're near the end of the program. Thank you all for being here. Please remember to support us however you can. We depend on your contributions of support for independent media for us to do this. Remember, this is not the only thing that we do. We don't only do radio shows, but we're out there in the field making sure we get the stories. Check out what we've done with Dan Crenshaw over the last few days. We have quite a few interviews coming up as well, and articles and books. But anyway, if you want to support us, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. If you're in Substack and like to become a paid subscriber, which help us do what we do, please just click that subscribe button and become a paid subscriber, or just go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Look, guys, you can email me directly, info@politicsdoneright.com, info@politicsdoneright.com. I'm closing out now, but I want to read what Patrick says here. Corporate tax fraud ranges from 800 billion to 1 trillion per year, but some of us care more about food stamps. So sad. That is the indoctrination that we have, Patrick, where we think that being wealthy, somehow the wealthy got it honestly. The people that most get their income honestly are all of you out here that are out there working. Please stop praising the wealthy. Please. This isn't wealth envy. This is having trust in those who deserve trust. This is not wealth envy. Let me just say this, guys, and I mean this from the depths of my heart. I had a choice to make. I have several products that I threw into the public domain and gave up to do this kind of work. I had to choose between blindfully taking, and I called wealthy people the real takers, okay? And I would have been a taker as well. Though I produce my own products, I could have done quite a bit with these products. But there's a time when you have to look in the mirror. And some people can look in the mirror and see how bad they are and not see it. But you have to look and you say, what good can you do? And again, life is an open book. So you can check out everything that I tell you. You can check out if it's true or not, because you have a lot of people lying around right here. But had to make a choice. And that choice was find a way to survive doing this kind of work that is doing something positive in life, than what the capitalist work is all about, which is extracting, which is profiting on the backs of others. It is that simple. There's nothing complex about it. There's nothing complex about it. We need to create a system where everybody have equal access to success. And capitalism ain't it. By mathematical formula, it ain't it. Don't be fooled by what you've been told by our indoctrination. It just ain't it. There are other systems that works, that approach to work. But anyway, I got to get out of here. Folks, love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.